Senior figures in the Turnbull government have told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation they believe the United States is prepared to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities perhaps as early as next month, and that Australia is poised to help identify possible targets. Now, the Australian Broadcast Corporation has been told that the Australian defense facilities would play a major role in identifying key targets for nuclear facilities inside of Iran, as would other organizations like British intelligence agencies. Providing intelligence and understanding as to what is happening on the ground so that the government and allied governments are fully informed to make decisions is different to active targeting. Now, analysts from a little-known spy agency called the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organization would also be expected to play a part in any operation. Now, very clearly, the sources are claiming that by giving this information is not the same thing as actually participating in it. They're developing a picture is very different to actively participating in a strike, which in the end is rather ironic because it's the same thing, because you're targeting places for them. Yes, they are giving intelligence as to where to bomb. Yes, that is participating in what would be an illegal war on Iran. Now, they also said that some of the other countries involved, which are mainly Commonwealth countries, Canada would be unlikely to play a role in any military action against Iran. It's very unlikely that we would do so because we have all of our military assets already committed in Afghanistan, and we don't have anything more to give. We don't have a essentially war economy like the United States does, so we're very limited in that degree. So it seems very unlikely that Canada would participate in any such kind of action. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has already violated the law. His recent tweet where he was threatening the president of Iran and Iran in general. Now, the act of publishing this tweet is a clear violation of Articles 2, 3, and 4 of the UN Charter, particularly the part that reads as follows. All members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. But the fact that mainstream media decided not to hold these dangerous actions to accounting is concerning, though really not surprising. Now, when reached for comment, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, openly denied the accusation that they were planning to attack Iran. They described the whole thing, or particularly him, described the whole thing as a complete work of fiction. In other words, they denied that they had any plans to bomb Iran next month. Now, it seems very likely that they will not bomb them now that the world is aware that they were going to do it. Now, it seems very likely that this was true, that they were going to do it, but now that they've already denied it, they can't possibly go ahead and do it. Now, a lot of this is over the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but Iran isn't really doing that. They're not creating nuclear weapons. They are creating nuclear energy now that the JCPOA has been abolished. Essentially, Trump pulled out of the agreement that would promise no nuclear weapons, so they've already violated that agreement while the other partners still want to remain in it. And Iran has said, well, if you're not going to live up to your part of the bargain, then there's no reason for us to stay inside this agreement. So even if Iran was currently developing nuclear weaponry, they would be well within their rights to do so because the U.S. already violated the rules that would prevent them from doing so. Trump created this situation. The United States deliberately provoked this to happen by their actions of pulling out of the JCPOA agreement. So this really is the fault of Trump. So Trump pulls out of the agreement, causes the problem to happen, and then threatens to kill the people that he himself has already caused the problem for. Now, that seems very much U.S. policy. Essentially, what I think has happened here is that Iran lived up to the agreement, which they may have thought Iran didn't. Then, this is not enough. They want regime change inside of Iran. So what they did was they pulled out of it. Then Iran's not living up to the agreement. Now they have their justification for going after them because the sanctions that were placed back on Iran after Trump pulled out of the agreement didn't collapse the country as they had anticipated. So the second method didn't work. So now that trying to collapse the economy didn't work, they're now resorting to acts of violence in order to do so. All of this completely and very obviously set up by U.S. foreign policy in order to attack and destabilize a sovereign country. You know, like Iran, you know, if you do or you don't, they still have a right to their independence and to make their own, have their own self-determination. And Trump seems insistent upon destroying that. But if I may switch to something a little bit more personal here, this kind of causes me a bit of concern. Any U.S. war against Iran would no doubt be backed by Canada, because we have always been very much compliant in whatever illegal or whatever crimes or whatever wars the United States tends to carry out. So what happens if there's a full-on war with Iran? What happens to anybody in Canada who might be, say, an Iran sympathizer? Someone who maybe even often appears inside their media to denounce the foreign policy of the United States and its allies, including Canada? Well, as you can guess, that makes me kind of nervous that, I might get black-bagged or something. Now, I find it very unlikely that I would end up in something like a Japanese internment camp. I mean, that kind of thing very likely is not going to happen. But I can probably expect a visit from the police or some kind of intelligence agencies. So you can understand why a war with Iran kind of makes me nervous. The same kind of thing with the DPRK. If the U.S. were to go to war against the DPRK, Canada would fall in line behind it like the good little pet that it is. And this would also place me in a very difficult situation. So here's to hoping that the United States does not go to war against Iran. Not only the fact that it is a sovereign country and has every right to exercise its self-determination and to determine their own destiny, but I don't want to end up in some kind of Guantanamo Bay for merely asserting that various countries around the world have the right to determine their own destiny. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.